Good day and welcome to today's webinar, Move Performance Testing to the Next Level with HP Performance Center. My name is Megan Shelton and I will be the moderator for today's session. I am the leader of Vivit's brand new Performance Engineering SIG. Feel free to reach out to me through the Vivit website. Next slide.
I'm sorry, just a minute. It's not moving. Somehow.
Hit page down, Mukalika. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Okay.
This webinar is brought to you by HP. Next slide. To give you a little background, I have been in the performance business for 10 years. I started with LoadRunner version 6.5 and Test Center 2.0, which later was renamed Performance Center. I am currently using 11.5.1. Our presenters today are Mukalika and Orr. Mukalika is a senior product manager for HP's Performance Center, which is a core part of the HP software performance validation space, addressing the enterprise performance testing COE market. She is responsible for driving future strategy, roadmap, optimal solution usage, and best practices, and serves as primary liaison for customers and the worldwide field community. Mukalika has 14 years experience in IT consulting, software development, and architecture, definition, and SaaS. Orr is a software developer for HP software and has over 10 years experience in QA engineering and load testing. He has been with HP for 6 years. 4 of those have been with Performance Center's QA team, and currently he is working as a web developer in Performance Center's application team and holds a degree in mechanical engineering from Tel Aviv University. Next slide, please. Before we get started on today's topic, I would like to go over a couple things. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on Vivit's webinar section. You will also receive an email with a link to the webinar. Additionally, today's slide deck and webinar recording will be made available to you. If you have questions as we go along, please type and send them in using the questions pane in the webinar control panel. We will address as many questions as we can at the end of the session. Here is a picture of the GoToWebinar control panel. It usually appears at the upper right-hand corner of your screen. To submit a question, make sure the questions pane is expanded and type in your question and click on Send. In order to give you the best presentation we can, we would like to get some information about you, the audience. There will be 3 questions popping up on your screen. Please take a moment and choose an answer by clicking on the appropriate response. Question 1, what products are you currently utilizing to execute performance tests? LoadRunner, Performance Center, LoadRunner and Performance Center, or another non-HP solution?
Okay, the votes are coming in, Megan. Still coming in. Give it a few more seconds here. Oh, they're still coming in. Great. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
Here are the results from question 1. Looks like we have a wide variety of people on the phone. Question 2, how much do you know about HP Performance Center? Nothing, enough to be dangerous, understand only the testing components, or an expert in the whole application?
And the votes are coming in. Great. Give it a few more seconds. Okay. Still coming in. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
The results from that question should be on your screen as well. Question 3, the last question for you. If you're currently using HP solutions, how many controllers do you have? Only 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 6, or more than 6?
Okay, the votes are coming in. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and show the results. Okay, interesting.
Great. Thank you for your participation. Now, let's get started. I will pass it over to Mukulika.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mukulika, and I have Orr with me. So we will go with a couple of slides on HP Performance Center to provide an overview, the new features, and then we will go over to a demo of Performance Application Lifecycle, which is a very new, cool feature module within HP Performance Center, which is a big differentiator for our product. Since in the poll we saw that there were a wide variety of customers, our audience today, some using LoadRunner, some using HP Performance Center, and some using non-HP products. I will try to cover the slides so that it's interesting for all of you. But if you're looking for some detailed protocol level or that kind of information, we will have a follow-up session on that. So let's start with what are the challenges of our modern world applications. As you know, today most of the enterprises are moving at least some of their projects to Agile. 20 to 40% of enterprise customer projects are following Agile methodology. Customers are trying to develop mobile applications for their major online applications. The architecture is all based on services, and more applications are becoming composite or hybrid. Application components are partially in the cloud, some within on-premise, and this all is leading to a lot of changes in the way we develop and test applications. Business is looking for very quick turnaround in changes. They want releases starting from which used to be, say, a few months, 6 months, 1 year. Now it has come down to 3 months, 1 month. And if it is companies like Netflix or Google or Facebook, then it is like days or hours. So because changes are coming faster and applications are getting more and more complex, and customers are requiring mobile access to all our applications, there needs to be a change in how applications are developed, because how can they...
This is Sylvia, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, we are not seeing your slides. Now we are. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So how do we make sure that our applications are keeping up with such frequent changes? How do we make sure that since we are moving changes to production every hour or every week or every month, they're not breaking and making production unstable? And the solution is performance testing. So since over here, some of the customers are using LoadRunner or Performance Center or some kind of performance testing solution, we won't spend too much time on these slides, but I'll still give a short introduction that, as you know, in performance testing, what we do is we simulate synthetic users or virtual users, thousands of virtual users, to load the system to try to replicate how the system will behave in production, how it will behave in peak hours versus regular hours, how it will behave in certain network conditions. And we try to see how the system responds to these thousands of virtual users. We try to pinpoint bottlenecks in the resources, in the application code, etc. So before we talk about HP Performance Center, I should talk about HP LoadRunner, which has been around for more than 10 years. It is like one of the industry recognized name in performance testing. Anybody who does performance testing or is a performance engineer has heard of HP Load Runner. But HP Load Runner is typically used in project-based testing. So within an enterprise, we typically see multiple instances of HP Load Runner used by multiple project teams. It generally is used in a single geographical location or site, and that's why it's hard to share it across projects. But as our enterprise customers mature, other than doing just performance testing, they start encountering a new set of problems. They have multiple projects to test. They have to report and audit multiple projects. They have global teams, offshore teams, vendors, their own employees. And they need to make sure they are, firstly, sharing all the assets. What do we mean by sharing all the assets? Performance testing is not easy. It requires a lot of hardware, a lot of software. So how do we make sure that we are sharing the hardware? They are not lying idle, the load generators. We are sharing the licenses. We are reporting across projects to our management. How do we make sure we have collaboration? Across teams, we share our standards, our scripts, or any learning lessons learned. So we need an enterprise performance testing solution. And if you take, for example, this example of a company which is running, say, 4 major critical projects. Project A is using HP Load Runner 11.5. Their simulated users is, say, 1,500, and they're using 4 boxes. Project B is using HP Load Runner 9.1. They need to upgrade. And they have simulated users, say, again, 1,500 virtual users, and they're using 8 boxes. Project C is another load testing software, and Project D doesn't have budget, so they're hoping for the best, that when they go live, everything works fine. So as you see, there is no sharing of best practices and skills. Each project is unique, isolated, and located in a different region. There's no global collaboration possible. It's individual teams talking to each other to understand and fix any issues. There's a lot of duplicated resources, hardware and software. And especially when one project is not testing, all the hardware is sitting idle. And similarly, another project cannot really use the licenses which are available when one project is idle. Different solution means duplicate skills, and the scripts cannot be reused, lessons cannot be learned, and unable to maximize utilization of performance engineers. And of course, there is no management visibility across projects. And that's why HP came up with HP Performance Center. HP Performance Center is a platform for enterprise performance testing. It was built using HP Load Runner components. So all HP Load Runner features are always absorbed in Performance Center. So whatever protocols are available in HP Load Runner are available in Performance Center. Only thing is, it's a platform built on top of it. So it can be used as a centralized web-based platform. You can run multiple projects on HP Performance Center. Each project reuses the licenses and the hardware and everything available to this central pool. And so there is a lot of collaboration which can be done across resources around the globe. And then at the end of the day, management can have a dashboard where they can see the status of each and every project performance testing. So let's go back to, again, the same scenario of project A, B, C, and D. But now instead of using separate tools or not doing performance testing at all, they're all using HP Performance Center. So they are connecting to that central instance of HP Performance Center. So they are sharing the licenses, they're sharing the load generators, all the test data and results are in one central repository, and then there is management visibility of all projects across different locations. So let's look at 2 ROIs from our 2 big customers who are enterprise customers. British Sky Broadcasting, or BSkyB, is our EMEA customer. They use thousands of virtual users. They're very advanced in performance testing. They actually got the benefits back in 5.3 months. Whatever they spent in buying the licenses, just because of sharing licenses across hundreds of projects and sharing their hardware, their load generators, their controllers, they got back the money. So, and also, the project throughput doubled with staff increases of only 20%. So they are getting way more than whatever extra staff they put in to manage all these projects. From IT perspective, they can run performance tests 24/7 across multiple locations, and they have increased their test scenario. They actually run tests from their build systems automatically after every build. Next, we have a global finance company. Their benefit was $21 million over 4-year period. Again, their ROI is 240% when they move from a different load testing solution to HP Performance Center. So when I compare HP Load Runner with HP Performance Center, if you see, although the top 3 rows are common, and that doesn't mean that HP Load Runner doesn't have what it needs to do performance testing. Load Runner is, again, the industry standard de facto name in performance testing. Question is whether you need an enterprise solution to share licenses and to share hardware and knowledge, or you just need a project-based solution. If you see the top 3 rows, any protocol, any technology support supported by Load Runner is available in Performance Center. Whether it's mobile, whether it's Web 2.0, it's all available in Performance Center. The analysis capabilities in Load Runner, the way to do correlation, is also available in Performance Center. What is not available in Load Runner but is available in Performance Center are these enterprise features like ALM integration, application lifecycle management integration. Now in HP Performance Center, you can store your non-functional requirements. You can store your defects coming out of performance testing. You can manage all your load generators and controllers in one single pane. You can see which ones are up, which ones are down, what's the problem going on. You can reboot them. You can share your virtual users and controllers license, especially when large enterprises have hundreds of projects running. If you don't share licenses, you will see your costs going up. Same thing is you can share your hardware. Because you can schedule tests one after another or in parallel in the same hardware pool. You can use your production metrics in your test design. That is Performance Application Lifecycle, or PAL, which we are going to give a demo today because it's a big differentiator. Our competitors in the market don't have this feature. There is trending. You can show how your different load test results are on the same application are doing over time. After every change introduced, how is the load test results changing? Then there is the security and role-based workflow. Every project can have its admin, its different role-based security, and then you can have an overall administration. It's web-based, high availability, 24/7 available. There is centralized dashboard or tracking of all the reports of the results. There's auditing, and then you can store all your scripts, results, and analysis in one place so that you can share. Lastly, HP Performance Center can be deployed on-premise, or it is available on HP Software as a Service. So if you want, say, subscription-based pricing, if you want term pricing, you want to pay as you go, then you should, and you don't want to spend on infrastructure or host it within your environment, you should reach out to HP and look at HP Software as a Service option. So let's go through a couple of key features of HP Performance Center. I will not go through the protocols, etc., which are available both in HP Load Runner and Performance Center. We have different webinars for that. but I'll touch upon some of the features which are only available in Performance Center. One is shared resources. You can use the same pool of load generators, controllers across multiple projects, and you can see all of them in one central place and manage them. Then visibility into how these resources are being used. There is a very rich outlook like calendar through which different projects schedule their load tests. So you can see whether suppose you need 20 load generators for running a test, and you have total 30 in your pool of load generators. You can see on which day who has booked, and you can book those load generators accordingly. No need to use any more Excel to manage all of this. As you can see, there are you can schedule it through this Outlook like calendar. It shows you what are the availability, and you can see how far down you can schedule with what resources. You can also schedule maintenance windows so that other teams can't use those load generators. Then I talked about result trending. If you see here, you're running the same test on the same you're running multiple tests on the same application, and you can see the results, the response times over time. You can baseline one of them and compare it with the other load test results. And then the new feature called Performance Application Lifecycle. What is Performance Application Lifecycle? Before I give it to Or in one line, I can say that you collect and analyze your production data. Okay? Suppose your version 1 of your application is in production. You get that production data. How is it doing? You can get it from your IIS logs, web trends, or RUM. And then, parallelly, you're running load testing tests for version 2 release. You take your load test data and you compare it with your production load test data, and you can refine your load test based on that. This is in one line what is PAL, but now Or can give you way more details about it in his demo. Stephanie, now Or needs to present.
Okay, Or. Great, we can see your screen. Screen looks great. Perfect.
Great. So hello everyone. Today I'm going to demo PAL feature, which stands for Performance Application Lifecycle. This is one of my favorite features in PC since it touches one of the core methodology of load testing. We want our load test to create load on our testing application as close as possible to the load that is applied on our production environment. PAL gives us an easy way to see how a load test is compared to the load on production environment. This is done by taking production data from either BSM environment, which uses Real User Monitor RUM, or Web Trends, which is also a product that is used to monitor production environments. In PC12, we also added Google Analytics and IIS logs as a source of production data which can be used in PAL. After publishing the production data into PAL report, we will add the load test results to the same report and compare the measurements. We then tune the load test according to the data in the report and rerun the test. This is an iterative process which can continue until we are satisfied with the results. We can also tune the load test during an online run and compare the results in PAL. I'd like to start from the end by showing you a report I already exported to PDF. Sorry. In this report, you can see gray bars represent data from production, and the green bars are the load test results. As you can see, in most transactions, I got a good match, and some still needs a bit of work. In this demo, I'm going to show you how I got this result. So let's move to my project in PC. I have a web application that tests a pet store. That's the web application. I have a few scripts here that does some business operation on this website. I prepared the two load tests. I called one load test the untuned load test, which I simply put all those scripts into the load test and kept the default 10 users for each of the groups. And another load test which was tuned, and each group has a different number of virtual users to match the load that is currently being done by real users in production. And I tuned the load test by using PAL. So let me show you. First of all, I'm going to open the performance lifecycle. I'm going to open my performance website in PAL perspective. Now, here I have the feature flow, those arrows, starting from an introduction to PAL. Moving to the second stage is to import the production data. So here what I need to do is simply, I can manage my production data into folders. I'll create a new folder and call it test store. I'll now click on the import button and import data from production, which came from RAM, so I'm going to call it RAM data. Sorry. I'm going to browse for the file. Here it is. And click on upload. Now this file came from BSM. I'm going to show you quickly how I got it by an automatic email from BSM and with the data file attached to it. Moving back to PAL, I can drill down, get a sneak peek of the data inside this file, what it contains. You can see, for example, the actions. The actions are basically URLs with wildcard that the guy the off side of the system configured. Here I also uploaded the web trends data, which is more basic list of URLs. I'll close those previews. And I'll move to the next step, which is to create a report from this data. So again, I can manage my reports into folders. Create a new folder for test store. And I'll create a new report, or call it report 1. And select the application I'm working on. I can choose from a number of templates. So choose the advanced template and create the report. Now the first thing I need to do is to upload the data set I just entered from RAM. And now I can move from different views of the report and see all kinds of aspects of the data from production. Now, I'll move into the workload tab. I'm going to zoom into the workload tab. Now, all this is production data in the way that you can compare it to a load test result measurement. This is by itself not trivial. Most production analysis tools give you a more marketing perspective of production data. In PAL, we focus only on the performance aspects of the data. For example, you usually have to work a bit in order to see transactions per second measurement in data you get from your standard log analyzing tool. So now I want to design my load test according to this data. So I want to zoom in on specific measurements. In my case, I want to zoom into the hits distribution, transactions per second measurement. Now, once I created the production report, I'll move to the next stage of the PAL cycle, which is design and run the load test. And as you remember, I created the pet stored untuned load test. and I can edit it. Now I want you to notice that I can open my design load test streams and Power Report side by side. And now I can use the production data to better construct my load test. So here I see the transactions I have in production. And here I see my load test scripts. But to tune the number of virtual users, it might be easier to run this load test, which I already did, and add it to the Power Report. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm move back to data sources and add the testing data. So here I have the test for the untuned runs. I'm going to select one of those runs and add it to the report. Now I'm going to move back to the workload tab. And now you notice something interesting. We have the add to cart and buy transactions, and we have them available only in the production, but on the load test they are not available. But instead of that, I have 3 transactions, add to cart, food, pets, and toys, which aren't available on production, but are available on the load testing. So to resolve this, Power gives me the transaction mapping and grouping feature. And here I can simply select the add to cart transactions that correspond to the add to cart transaction I got from production data, and the same I'll do to the buy transaction, and click on map. Now POW instantly aggregated all the data of those transactions into 2 groups and mapped those groups into production. So when I close this, I will see the results. As you can see, I now see the add to cart in relation to the load test. Now another thing I can see here is that I have way too much add to cart and buy map and buy transactions in my load test. And also I can see I'm missing a lot of searches transactions. So I can start by roughly fixing this in the load test. For example, I also add a bit of login transactions and lower the amount of the buy transactions and add to carts, which are in these groups, and add some searches. I'm going to save the load test. I'll close the tab, and now I'm going to run the load test. Now the load test is starting. I'll move back to the report, talk a bit about the report again. As you notice, I didn't need to guess which scripts hold which transaction. You can see it in POW here. Another thing I want you to see is the colors here. We have something called threshold. If the data is between 25 to 50% difference, we color the transaction in yellow. Above 50%, we color it in red. So it gives me a way of easily seeing that my load test is not similar to the baseline I want to achieve. Another thing, when we go to data sources, we see that the load test I added only ran 30 minutes, but the production data by default is 1 hour. So how can I compare 1 hour to 30 minutes? We have the scaling factor feature, which automatically adjusts the data set duration. By multiplying the correct scaling factor on all the measurements that are changing over time, here it's kicks and timing system. Now I'm going to move back to my running load test. And as you can see, it's already running. And I see all the transactions of the load test in my transaction tab. And I see that I already have hits on those transactions. So now, while the load test is running, I can go to the power report and add this running test to the power report. Now, I move back to the workflow tab, and hopefully I will see a positive change because I did some modification to the test. So as you can see, there's a bit less red, a bit more yellow, but it's still not perfect. So what I can do is I can return to the running load test and simply add more running users to the test or stop virtual users and keep updating the report until I see that the test is similar to what I have in production. Another thing I would like to show you close to the end. Let me just zoom in on the hits. I can go and see this in a more graphical manner, which is in bar view. I'm going to change one of the colors, which turned out white, to a different color. So to summarize, let me just open a report which already contains the load test that is that I already tuned. Here, as you can see, the transactions are very similar to what I had in the production load. By clicking export to PDF, I can export this report, and this is what I showed you in the beginning. So let me just summarize the benefits of using PAL. First of all, we get a clear instant visibility of what we are truly testing, the correctness of a load test, and how close it is to a specific baseline. Namely, in our case, the actual load of production environment. It is easy to compare different types of data using our advanced grouping and mapping feature and scaling ability. Thank you very much for joining our PAL demo.
Thanks for the amazing demo. We will now move back to the slides. So let me just share my screen.
Okay, Mikulika, great. I can see your screen perfectly. Great.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 20 more minutes, and we would need time for question and answers. So I will go through the next few slides quickly. So next feature that we wanted to talk about is using HP Performance Center. You can now store all your performance non-functional requirements, and you can also manage your performance test defects in the same place. You can trace between requirements, tests, and defects. And then we have a new GUI called My Performance Center, which is a web-based clean GUI, and a performance engineer can do most of his tasks through this My Performance Center. He can create tests. He can see all his test results. And we are enhancing this GUI with every release, and we are creating fast test layouts. There are very cool features in our roadmap for this new GUI. So again, to repeat, HP Performance Center inherits all HP Load Runner functionality around protocols, analysis. It's just the enterprise platform for running multiple projects performance testing in one centralized place. So you can test a broad range of apps, and you can report over all of them in one place. So it reduces risk, cost, and time. So there are some new trends in the market which we are addressing in our both HP Load Runner and HP Performance Center. One is continuous delivery. So first came continuous integration, then came continuous testing, now continuous delivery. So for agile projects where you're doing 1 to 2 week sprints and then making releases after 4 or 5 sprints, it's very important to run your tests automatically after every build. You may not run your full performance test after every build, but some smoke tests, and then say after a major build, run your set of performance tests. To facilitate that, we have integration with your developer IDEs, so they can kick off the tests during development. And also, you can run performance tests from your build systems. You can run it from Jenkins or your Ant scripts, so we have APIs to do that. Another new trend is mobile, obviously. So every customer today is investing a lot on mobile apps. Each and every of their online application is available through mobile today. So when it comes to mobile users, the mobile user behavior can actually impact your response time a lot. So you really need to understand the impact of mobile on your entire system. And just by changing your script to include a mobile device user agent is not enough. And we need to provide a different way to handle mobile. So we have HP Mobile True Client or HP Mobile Application Protocol. And also we have Shunra for emulating network conditions for mobile. So if you see here, for complete end-to-end mobile testing, we have 2 types of protocols. We have Mobile Application Protocol, which is a transport level protocol, and we have Mobile True Client Protocol, which is going to capture your client-side interactions also. There are different ways you can record your mobile application. You can do proxy recording, or you can record from your emulator, or you can really record from the device itself. And you can do it for mobile browser, native app. So there are multiple recording options which customers can pick and choose based on cost and their scenarios. Now, when you're doing mobile testing, it's not always possible to test it from mobile devices. And so if you're testing from, say, a mobile emulator on your desktop, you would have to emulate your network also. So because you cannot test it through internet and say that I'm doing mobile testing, you have to simulate or virtualize your network to emulate real-world mobile network conditions. And we have partnership with Shunra for doing network virtualization, which is specifically important for mobile testing. So just to end today's presentation, why do we need HP Performance Center? It's a market leader in performance testing, and we are trying to innovate all the time with new releases. It's a scalable solution to support any kind of organization, whichever is looking for enterprise solution to do performance testing across multiple projects. You can, again, share resources, licenses, best practices, and you can provide visibility for all projects in one centralized place. Since it is built on top of HP LoadRunner, it has the broadest technology and platform support in the industry. And because our products have been there, we have an extensive ecosystem of partners and IT professionals who know these products and who can support you in your performance testing needs. Thank you so much for attending today's presentation. If you want to know more about Performance Center, please go to www.hp.com/go/performance center. If you have specific questions, feel free to send me an email at mkapas@hp.com. For customers on this call who have not used Performance Center, please go and check out this website. For customers who are using Performance Center but want to be our design partner or want to get involved in beta testing of our next release where we are releasing some cool features, feel free to reach out to me and we will add you in the design. We would love to have you actually in the design partnership. Stephanie, you can now open it up for questions.
Wow, that was a great presentation. We have quite a few questions to be answered. We're going to try to answer as many as possible, and if we don't get to them all, we will go offline and answer them, and you will receive a link to where you can see all the questions and answer. So question number one, Mukalika, do you have examples of customers who have achieved any sort of measurable ROI with Performance Center?
Yes, as I showed you, we showed the ROI for BSkyB and another financial company. We have ROI templates. If you reach out to your sales rep, they can provide you more ROI details.
How does Performance Center lend itself to the continuous delivery processes of today as far as continuous testing is concerned?
So I had one slide where we showed, firstly, you can integrate Vusion with Developer IDE. So if developers want to run any simple 2-3 virtual user test, they can directly do it from their IDE while developing. But for continuous testing, we have REST APIs. And we also have enhanced an open source Jenkins plugin through which you can call directly performance tests within Performance Center directly from your continuous integration environment, whether it's Jenkins or some Anscript or whatever you've built.
Are there any plans for Performance Center to automatically provision load generators, possibly in the cloud?
Yes. And if you want to know more details, we can have a roadmap session, or we can actually, if you send me an email, we will sign you up for beta testing because it is a biggest feature in our next release.
And what do you mean by synthetic user?
I meant virtual users, sorry.
This sharing of licenses and everything else is only available through ALM Premier, not through Enterprise. Are there any plans of making the shared platform and PC in general with the existing QC Enterprise editions?
Actually, this sharing of licenses and resources is available through Performance Center. You don't need to, it can be a Performance Center standalone. It doesn't have to be ALM and PC together, but it can be just standalone Performance Center.
Is there an available ROI calculator for PC?
Yes, you should reach out to your software sales rep to get more information.
Are LoadRunner scripts and scenarios portable between standalone LoadRunner and Performance Center?
Yes, you can move. It would require some changes, but they are quite portable.
So just to clarify,
yes,
Lisa, scripts are 100% portable between Load Runner, Performance Center, BSM, and actually a few other products in the HP portfolio. Scenarios are the only thing that require any sort of changes to move from the file format in Load Runner to the database format in Performance Center.
Thank you, Shane. So Shane is the Load Runner product manager, so I was not aware he's on the call, but thank you.
What do you mean by when your costs are going up using individual load generator? My understanding is that ALM or PC is more costly than Load Runner.
Yes. So PC is more costly than Load Runner, that's true. And that's why I kept on saying that if you're doing project testing, single site, then Load Runner is perfect choice for you. But if you want to share your licenses and your load generators across multiple projects, that's when you should look at HP Performance Center, because suppose you're running load testing on Monday and you are not running a load test on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But another project wants to run load tests on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you use HP Performance Center, even if that project is in a different geographical location, different people, those load generators and licenses need not be idle. They can be used by the other group while project A is not doing load testing. And that's how you gain the ROI, and although you spend more on Performance Center license, you get back the cost. So it really depends on how your usage and your needs.
What version of Performance Center was the demo on?
The demo was on Performance Center 11.52, which is the latest release of Performance Center.
Another question about the demo, or would you like to answer this one? You uploaded production data in the form of a zip file. What tool generated this file? By this I mean, by what mechanism was this data extracted from the production environment?
Yes, this data was extracted by BSM. Is a platform that's used to monitor production, and it has multiple ways that it monitors. One of them is called Real User Monitor. Now, Real User Monitor continuously gathers information on the production. You can say it records data from the production. The administrator of BSM needs to go into BSM UI and select a 2 weeks length of filtered data. For example, if he wants to see the last 2 weeks, and once he does this, he will get an email from BSM with this file containing the peak hour of the whole 2 weeks, 1 hour, which was the peak time with the most amount of hits from those past 2 weeks that it shows, and that's it. This is how it works in the BSM side. We also support web trends, and here we have a local exe file which we use in order to bring the data from web trends, which is also a log analyzer tool available. And as I said, we currently have such a tool for Google Analytics and IIS logs, which is part of the next version. But if any customers of current 11.52 wants to try out those tools, we can share them, because it doesn't require the next version of file. It can be used even with this version of file. So I hope.
Thank you, Or. Thank you. So yes, again, if you want to be our beta tester or you want to try out with Google Analytics, please reach out to me, and we can send you the details.
Next question, how do you account for the location of the end users in the RUM and web trend data? Can you recreate this in a test?
Or
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How do you account for the location of the end users in the RUM and web trend data? Can you recreate this in test?
Yes, actually, this is something I haven't demoed, but in the report I have the locations of each of the transactions in relation to, I see one location, it had this amount of transactions, etc. And in order to replicate this in a test, all I need is more than one load generators that are available in all the locations I want to simulate. And basically, I can add multiple scripts and use each script with a different location load generator, or even on the same script group, I can add those two load generators. And this is how I can create distributions of locations in the test and compare it to what I have installed.
Is a production transaction simply a page load event, or can you identify more sophisticated user workflows?
Again, yes, in VSM RUM, the administrator can define an action. An action is basically a URL with wildcards, and this is how he gets page codes and aggregates them into this action. And there's another thing in RUM called transaction, which holds a multiple number of actions. So I can see both transactions and actions in PAL.
Is it mandatory to use IP spoofing for load testing? Can we use load balancing instead of IP spoofing to distribute the load across the servers? If so, how can we make sure that load balancing is working as intended?
Shane,
So
can you take that? Yeah.
Yeah. No, IP spoofing is not a requirement. It's an optional feature. And assuming your test environment also contains your load balancer like production, then you would simply target the load balancer URL to test that it's working properly. Some customers have found that load balancers are picky based on IP addresses, so there's a few ways around that. You can use either a DNS round-robin approach, or you can configure the load balancer to be more session sticky rather than IP address sticky, which uses a different portion of the network traffic to manage the distribution of load. But there are a few ways around that. And certainly it's something that we could dive into a little bit further, maybe in the forums, if you haven't had a chance to maybe post a question there.
Great, thanks, Shane. We are at the top of the hour, and I apologize we did not get to all of the questions, but we will take them offline and answer them and send you a link to the webinar and the questions and answers. Thank you for attending the webinar, and have a great day.
Thank you.